All right, we are live for the midday Mike and Mario show. Excited to be back. Different day, different time, but yet due to scheduling conflicts and things like that on both ends, here we are. But excited to be back. Looking forward to connecting. So, where do you want to begin?
Well,
how
there's
you doing,
so
Mario?
much. I'm doing well. I guess last week we were talking about the new
Yeah,
NU, and then
yeah,
they changed the name on us to
yeah.
Omicron. I think there's a book, Manias and Popular Delusions and Madness of Crowds
Uh-huh.
and Manias. I think, unfortunately, the world's gone mad,
Yeah,
the general public,
yeah.
at least the unwashed masses. If I don't want to be like snobbish, but let's say the people out there,
People who drunk the Kool-Aid.
yeah, they're
Yeah.
very scared. I just saw one of the I just saw a tweet.
Hmm.
They're talking about Christmas dinners. People here like booking
Yeah.
Christmas dinners instead of staying at home. They book a big lunch
Hmm.
at a nice restaurant. And someone said, "Well, I know a restaurant owner." He said, "Oh, everyone's calling to cancel it because they're scared."
Mm.
Uh, and I just can't understand it.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just crazy.
Well, well, I ain't gonna say I can't understand it, but I recognize the bigger picture.
Oh yeah,
And the fear works wonders in a world where the media is controlled, politicians are bought and paid for, and once again, it so happens to be at a time where the economic conditions were already not too favorable. There's already been talks of a recession, like different countries, different responses, but there was always a need for a new scapegoat. Why not call it the Omnicon? Here it is now. Now it's just a matter of how does this thing unfold heading into the new year? And of course, if there's no more accommodative policies, which that's going to be something we'll touch on eventually, that there's no way of pulling off this recovery narrative, this fake recovery narrative. So, but it is what it is. So let's just jump right into a couple articles on the actual absurdity of what's going on. So let me put this on the screen here. And so it looks like I think is that Billy? Billy trying to talk to you?
he's just snoring, sleeping. Yeah,
Knocked out. But so
yeah,
here we have more countries encroaching in more on our freedoms or their people's freedom. So we got Austria imposes some stuff here, and then also on top of that, Austria faces you face prison time and a fine up to like 33,000 euros or something like that, 3,600 euros or 4 weeks in prison after February 1st if you don't comply. And then, of course, we got Greece imposing monthly fines on unvaccinated residents over 60.
yeah.
And then, as of today, Germany jumps on board and is imposing lockdowns on those who have not participated. Now, at what point do people realize this is not about health? This is not about health whatsoever. But here we go.
Yeah, and the other thing that I always say to people is why take it? Why are they so desperate with this medical procedure?
Right.
If this disease, you have a 99.9% chance of surviving it if you're relatively healthy.
Right.
And the thing is, yeah, it's just crazy that people are just like I think the problem, Mike, is that people watch too much television.
Mm-hmm.
They watch the news, they think it's the news,
Right.
instead of really being propaganda. And
Right.
they read the newspapers. And I remember over 30 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
uh, I met a friend of my sister. He was from Barbados. She knew him from university, and I think his uncle was a minister in the government there, so quite high up. A clever guy. At the time, he was already working in private equity,
Mm-hmm.
and he said to me, "Never watch television." And I thought, What's he going on about? But he
Mm-hmm.
was right.
Yeah. Yeah, television and the news articles are the number one propaganda tools to get out an agenda. And it works very well because when it's all bought and paid for, you actually think it's the truth. And what bothers me the most is people still to this day don't think that their governments are capable of lying to them. And then you factor in the whole medical side of things where you got these doctors that are bought and paid for as well out here talking about something called long COVID, which is like symptoms for 6 months after and all the side effects which resemble the side effects for those who took the
Yeah.
jab. So nothing really makes sense. But we all know it's a cover up for what's really going on. Is the fact that the economy is no longer to hide that narrative of a recovery. So something's giving or has already given, and here we are now. So just this week, Jenny Yellen and Powell got up and talked about the need to, I guess, speed up their tapering measurements, I guess, by March, and with Fed funds hikes also before then as well. Now that's not possible, but yet they need another large injection into the global economy. Now it's a matter of will it be the Build Back Better, which is on the table as well, and then it's government shutdown possibly tomorrow. It's not going to shut down, but
I saw another headline about that. I saw that. Well, I had heard that they were able to extend it to the 15th, and now I saw a headline earlier today. I think it was on Zero Hedge. I think it was Janet Yellen came out and said they've got a deal to keep the government open to the middle of January. Oh yeah, House reaches deal to avoid government shutdown to February now. So
yeah. Oh no. So that's just between the House. That's just what they put out there. That's the initial one thrown out
House,
there.
Yeah, I guess you need the Senate now.
Correct. And of course, it'll go through the Senate because as we realized from the whole infrastructure bill, there was 13 Republicans or something to jump ship. So it's all a charade. But but February 1st, that's only 90 days from now, give or take. Before then, we're at it again. And I think with this, it'll only be 1 point something or so trillion. But that's never going to be enough. So it only goes on and on and on. But it is what it is. But along that, there's countries all around the world. Oops, where I go? I got rid of myself. But we can jump into a couple other situations that really show how bad things are.
Can we go? I don't know if you got the article I sent you about South Korean inflation.
We got it.
Yeah, I just want to talk about that because it's quite interesting.
Yeah, go ahead.
The CPI for South Korea came out at 3.8%, was expected 3.1, and it says it confounded economists, right? But the most interesting thing, if you go to that paragraph in August there, it says in August, is that they've raised rates from 0.5% to 1%. And they've done that since August, and that hasn't stopped it. It hasn't stopped prices rising, which shows me that the inflation, that's what people need to understand. The inflation has been created in the past. It's already baked in the cake. That's why it's confounded economists. And that just goes to show, and I think Korea probably not as indebted as the United States. They've been able to raise rates from 0.5% to 1%, and that hasn't stopped prices rising. So can you imagine the Fed? I think they're talking about maybe 2 rate hikes to, let's say, 0.5% by the end of next year or spring 2023. That's not going to stop prices rising.
Right.
And maybe they're trying to cool things off in the commodities markets as well right now with this talk of Omicron. I think that's the agenda here because you've noticed oil has come off a lot. And some other commodities. So maybe this is just manipulation, but like with gold and silver, gold and silver are like barometers of inflation and monetary and fiscal rectitude. But all they keep doing is like manipulating the paper price. But one day people are going to realize that it's really cold outside and it's raining. They're trying to hide it. It's not gonna. Some people think they can do it forever, but they can't. I think what's going to stop that is the fact that foreigners know that the U.S. is doing that, and that's why they're starting to buy more and more gold. We saw Singapore this week; they added 20% to their reserves.
Yeah, and I think just from looking at this article here, how the global supply chain, as it says, issues. And so I'd assume that's going to also be a narrative that they can use to kind of counter the numbers game. So they can probably try to raise rates a little bit to say that we're doing our part. This is what typically happens. But then again, we had those greedy, like Biden says, the greedy manufacturers, doing it for profit and all these other issues, which is what they'll be able to blame this on. So it's just more diversion from the real issues, which is the monetary system. The central bankers themselves have pretty much destroyed everything, and they're literally running on fumes right now, trying to figure out how to get this thing moving still when it's already killed over, in my opinion.
I would say also all this scare around this Omicron is already going to hurt the supply chain again.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to keep, it's going to make, uh, it's going to, companies are going to be missing a lot of employees.
Right.
Uh, we're going to see the parts going to run. There's not going to be parts for trucks and other things because of everything is disrupted.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's still a lot of a big proportion of the population that has refused this medical um, procedure.
Right.
And also, even the people who have taken one or two,
Mm-hmm.
they're going to become unvaxxed, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to be like maybe locked down, maybe in Germany or Austria.
Yeah.
So uh and I saw, I think it was yesterday or the day before, someone from the IMF or World Bank, one of the big international organizations, saying
Mm-hmm.
that it's going to get worse, the supply chain stuff. And I think they know the program.
Yeah.
We know that the World Bank issued that COVID preparedness program last year in March, and it's supposed to last to 2025. That's
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, and it's deliberate. Like, not only do they know, but it's deliberate. Like, so I imagine, like, Biden's supposed the last couple of weeks or so trying to ease the ports and whatnot, unload some of those ships and get things flowing. But then again, it's going to be another excuse to why they're going to ultimately increase the regulation. So just today, they floated out the idea of limiting domestic travel within the U.S. and they floated out that narrative of anything's on the table. So I think it was the travel czar, whoever he is, said it's anything's on the table. And once again, if you usher that out, then you basically cut off a good portion of the population that won't be able to travel freely, including those who are trucks in the truck service, the delivery service. Even people doing was it FedEx and stuff like that, at UPS and all that other stuff will fall into that same category. Therefore, that's going to really slow things down. On
Yeah,
top
that. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, you go ahead with that first.
I was going to say, on top of the fact that with these numbers that came out today as well, and so this is not ideal for an economy that was recovering before this new scamdemic variant type of situation. But so it looks like the unemployment rate is heading back up, possibly heading into the new year, which breeds the need for more stimulus and support for those that are not working. So everything's very timely. Everything is at the right time and space of just more nonsense.
It's interesting because Peter Schiff a few years ago, he spoke about this is to do with transportation. Did you know that in the U.S., because they tried to protect the merchant marine in the U.S., they only allow merchant ships that don't have a U.S. flag. When they come into the U.S., they're only allowed to deliver to the port of destination. So let's say a Liberian flagged ship comes from China and delivers Chinese goods to Long Beach port, and then they're empty, right? Wouldn't it be easy to put stuff that, let's say, LA wants to send to Washington State in that ship, and that ship can go up to Seattle or Portland, whatever port they use up there, and deliver it instead of so the U.S. can't even use, and the merchant marine in the U.S. is almost gone. There's not many U.S. flagged ships. So can you imagine how? And that's why trucking has become so important. But you could have these foreign ships that deliver goods to New Orleans, L.A., New York, or wherever. They could get goods from those parts and ship it within the U.S. as well. And that's the other reason why the U.S. is so dependent on trucking.
Yeah. And it looks like there will be some type of hindrance with that. But it is what it is, man. We knew it was coming. So now it's a matter of, okay, how do we prepare for this head into the new year? Because it's going to be more of a supply pinch if things are not able to flow freely. Therefore, it's going to be more of a rush for people who are awake and aware to run out and get stuff. But then again, pretty soon the mainstream media is going to pretty much hyping up the idea of hoarding is going to be the word. And that's going to create more of a panic for people to go out a lot sooner than they normally would. And therefore, it's going to escalate right on down to more just bare shelves. And of course, somebody mentioned in California how smash and grabs are becoming the
Oh
popular
yeah.
thing. People getting held up at gunpoint at restaurants, and just the crime
Yeah.
pays out there. So people are stealing every damn thing.
Isn't there a law in was it California or San Francisco? I think any if you steal less than $950,
California,
it's
yeah,
okay. And I saw the other day in San Francisco they attacked a Louis Vuitton store,
yeah.
expensive stuff, and
Black Friday smash and grabs.
yeah.
Crazy. So here's an article as well that I meant to send to you, but I didn't. But it's another real estate developer in China that basically admitted that they are unable to pay $651 million in debt. So I don't know what number this is of real estate developers that are basically have or on the brink of
Yeah.
defaulting. But this is another domino that's falling over there. So
Yeah,
it has to be a lot worse in that country than
yeah.
what we're actually being told outside.
I did an interview. I interviewed London Paul from, I don't know if you heard of him, from the
Uh-huh.
Serious Report,
Yeah.
and I'm going to publish it tomorrow morning. It's going to be my morning video
Mm-hmm.
because I got to get up, go out early,
Yeah.
and he knows quite a bit about China. And the thing about China is that most big companies there are partly state owned.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, they have a lot of debt, but a lot of times that debt is owed to state banks or local government banks.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all interconnected. The Chinese government is probably going to keep them going. I'm not saying there isn't a problem, but
Yeah.
it might not be as serious.
Mm-hmm.
All they're going to have to probably do is inflate more and more.
Right. Now, on the internal side of things, with the debt denominated in the yuan, that's definitely easier because it
Yeah.
can be contained within their country there. But what about the dollar denominated debt?
Oh, yeah.
That could be the
That's
problem.
actually, I saw that. You probably heard of that Dr. Marco Metzler, who's he's trying to take Evergrande to court because they haven't paid his coupon
Oh, no, I don't
on
know.
these. Yeah, well, a lot of the overseas bonds in
Mhm.
dollars, they're they're held by companies, Evergrande subsidiaries in the Cayman Islands. So they're like offshore tax haven.
Yeah.
And this guy now is speculating that the Fed is indirectly bailing them out because BlackRock, they buy a lot of they're advising the Fed to buy a lot of
Yeah.
they have these programs last year to buy corporate debt. So I don't know, but it's all really up in the air.
Yeah.
Uh, I think there's much more than just Evergrande out there. I think the banks are in trouble as well. We spoke about that. It's going to be in the
Mhm.
interview tomorrow.
Yeah. Whoo-wee, the banks. So knowing that all this monetary illusions of wealth and credit and debt is all geared upon the banks, it's like I'd imagine it's something really scary going on. On top of the fact, I've noticed a lot of smaller, they're downsizing all of the mom and pop small commercial banking branches in my
Mm.
area severely, to where I'm like, damn, people will have very limited options on where to go to get their currency if they think there's something in there for them. So I'm more convinced now than ever, especially heading into the new year. And it's just my personal opinion on keeping as very little in the bank as possible, just because at any moment there's going to be an event. On top of that, I'm not sure if you saw a little video clip that was put out by the I think it was World Economic Forum, saying something about the cyber winter, or some type of a banking event in the winter because of
Oh, I saw
climate
that. Yeah.
change. And what I'm saying,
Yeah.
any moment the banks can go out. I'm like, huh? Like this, they forecasting something. Or but yeah, that's just my thing, man. So only keep as much as you're willing to lose ultimately. But Chris, appreciate you, man. Can you explain what spoofing is? What effect does it have on the pricing of the precious metals markets? Thanks.
I can do that if you
Please
want
do. Yeah,
because
go
I
ahead.
have experience in these markets.
Give it to us.
So we'll quickly go back, let's say 25, 30 years when I started in the futures market.
Mhm.
All the exchanges, people traded in the pit. There was no electronic trading. So let's say I sent an order to my broker. He'd be in the booth, and then from the booth he hand signaled the order to the trader in the pit.
Mhm.
So what spoofing is, let's say all the traders are gathered around the pit trading gold or trading treasury bond futures, and then one of the trader offers like 10,000 lots, and let's say 1,000 lots is a huge order
Mhm.
in that market, but he offers 10,000 uh, at a certain price, and everyone sees that and they think, oh, he's selling all that, so they all lower their offers, and if you do that at a critical technical level where there's stops, it could trigger stops. And then they start selling, and then he just pulls that offer. He didn't do anything because
Mhm.
no one wanted to buy that, but it scared the market. So that's what spoofing is. But the thing is, back then you could see if someone did that, and he did it a few times, and he was uh, sorry my expression, dicking around,
Yeah.
people wouldn't buy into it anymore. But now all these futures markets are electronic.
Mhm.
So it's all done on the screen. So you don't know who's doing this, and people can spoof. They can show a bid for 10,000 gold futures, uh, and that would like really trigger stops on the upside.
Mhm.
So let's say um, last week when they wanted to bring back gold back below 1800, they knew that was a key support. You could have someone offer 10,000 futures at 800.5, and that would definitely trigger all the stops at 1800.
Mhm.
But that order at point 0.5 for 10,000 futures probably never traded, but people seeing that, it scares them. So that's what spoofing is. It's an order that you put in that you don't really, you're not really looking to
To
do
fulfill.
that trade, but you're
Yeah.
just trying to. It's like you in a cinema, and you say fire, and everyone runs out, and it wasn't true. Basically,
Yeah.
that's what spoofing is.
Yeah.
And yes, but I think that's just one. It's just a tip of the iceberg of
Mhm.
precious metals manipulation, but it's a tool that's pretty useful because it can change the sentiment. They could use spoof the market just before the close if we're near a technical level. If the bankers want gold or silver to close below for a certain level for the week, so that
Yeah.
the mark so yeah, they control the price a lot through spoofing.
Yeah. And so speaking of which, in regards to some more information, somebody, Skilver just mentioned, Mike, important is a little comment on the producer price index of the Eurozone released this morning at 21.9. And so
Yeah, not surprising.
I just grabbed that real
Well,
quick.
the German was almost I think was almost 30%.
Mhm. Yeah.
So it's not this is not surprising then, yeah.
Yeah, so when it comes just to the number 20 or 21, 21, whatever, there's been more, what you call it, manufacturers of all sorts. I think it was Nabisco and all types of other manufacturers talk about, increasing rates or increasing prices rather about 20%.
Mm,
And then more people talk about the real rate of inflation in this sector here is really 20% and 20. And then we're told 6.2. And so, and then of course,
yeah.
dollar store went up, 25%. So
Yeah. Yeah.
20%, 20-ish or so is the real rate that we're not
Yeah.
being talked
The
that's not really being talked about.
uh,
But imagine when we get to the point where they start admitting that it's double figures, if we
well,
get to that
yeah.
point, like how bad it will be at that point for real.
So the other name for the PPI is like the wholesale price.
Mhm.
That's the cost of producing goods, and then they sell it on wholesale market. But the thing is, yeah, that's gonna creep into the CPI,
Mhm.
and probably very aggressively. And right now the CPI isn't worse. I think because a lot of the big corporations, they have a lot of reserves. They can cut back on
Mhm.
on costs more easily than a small company. But there comes a point where they can't anymore, and they're
Yeah.
going to have to start raising prices.
Or
And
or just increase shrinkflation, because of
oh
course
yeah,
there's
we're
more
seeing a
pictures,
lot of
just
that.
yeah, more pictures of
Yeah,
just smaller packages and less chips and bags, more air.
Yeah,
So,
and like the bags stayed the same size. Like some of the chips now here in the UK, we call them crisps,
mhm.
but they're the same size as they used to be. But it's like you have half. It used to
Mo-
be really full. Now it's like half full.
yeah, you get a lot more air. Here's a follow-up question to that spoofing one. How far can this spoofing game go on if the supply of gold and silver are diminishing?
Well, the spoofing doesn't really affect the supply of gold and silver.
Hmm.
All the spoofing does is a short-term tool to move the price around.
Yeah.
But I think in terms of the supply of physical supply of gold,
Hmm.
what we need to keep doing, even as little guys and gals,
Hmm.
is to keep stacking physical,
Yeah.
because that's the Achilles heel of the bankers. They hate when people that's why they push ETFs and everything. That's why they're pushing the Bitcoin ETF so they can manipulate it, because Bitcoin ETF, you're not going to own Bitcoin. They're
Hmm.
not going to deliver or Bitcoin to your wallet. They just want you to speculate on the price so they can control it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's why we need to keep stacking. And it feels like, oh, if I buy an ounce of gold or silver, what difference is that going to make?
Hmm.
But if we keep preaching, and it's almost like preaching, right? The
Hmm.
sound money and how gold and silver are important, that you need to have some. Uh, well, in my opinion, I'm not telling people
Right.
that they go out there and buy it, but you need to have some if you want to protect your savings. But it needs to be the real thing.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, you
Yeah.
don't buy it. You don't, if you want to buy a car, you don't buy a virtual car, right? You buy the real thing.
But what's amazing, and so we talk about virtual, is that there's actually a rush by people who have been in the crypto space for quite some time to buy virtual land, and they're actually having like Zoom style virtual meetups, and they're creating a whole alternative reality inside of these different platforms here, and people are rushing into it under the speculation that it's only going to continue to increase, and therefore their virtual property will increase, which for a lot of properties or whatever it has. But it's just amazing how we've been steered towards a digital, you
It's
know,
like Facebook as well. They've gone and changed their name to Metaverse, isn't it?
yeah,
It's just like, yeah, I mean, it's fun maybe to play a virtual game and put that thing on your head, but the real world isn't that.
yeah,
uh, Real estate property, it's not something on a screen. It's
right,
something real where you can go to. I
yeah.
think you had a super chat there.
Yeah, from Super
Super
Sincere.
Sinister.
Appreciate it. Says, get your weight up. Happy holidays. Keep the heat.
Yeah, that's right.
Appreciate you,
Super
buddy.
Sinister.
Yeah. So yeah, feel free to ask questions, throw out some comments and whatnot. We got a couple more articles worth going through. But another real world example of how important it is to understand what's really going on and what's really at stake. It happens to be unfolding right now in Turkey. And
Oh yeah.
so there's no way we cannot touch on that, just because it's daily people are being destroyed with their current and future ability to purchase and live and sustain themselves, because the currency is going belly up. It's all, ultimately, COVID to me is all about the currency reset and the need for something new. And that's why the digital illusion is so enticing, because that's a part of their plan of bringing
Mm.
in something new. But so here's a little article here. But Turkey, Erdogan fired a couple people who wasn't for his dropping rates at this current time, and therefore he hired a buddy of his that will
Yeah.
accommodate Erdogan's request of easing more in the midst of inflation there. So it's very
Well,
interesting that this is happening. Go ahead.
here it says that he resigned, but I'm sure he was uh
Yeah, he was told.
asked to resign. Yeah.
Yeah.
The funny thing about Turkey, and I'm not like defending Turkey or
Hmm.
anything, or Erdogan, is that he's not the you read that article, and the thing that they like to say in the West is that
Hmm.
he hates high interest rates,
Yeah.
but interest rates there at 15%. Yeah, and here they're at zero.
Yeah.
And we've got, yes, we don't have 20% inflation, or maybe more like Turkey,
Hmm.
but we got 20% PPI.
Hmm.
So yes, make fun of Turkey and Erdogan, but I think it's coming to a theater near us,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
And this is
Because
what the theater looks like.
why should the U.S. the US, Europe, and the UK be exempt from this kind of thing. And I think this chart that you're showing, of course, is how many Turkish lira the US dollar can buy.
Hmm.
I think soon uh, the way this will be reflected for the US, the UK, the EU is going to be higher gold and silver prices. I know
Hmm.
it's been very frustrating. A lot of people have given up on gold and silver, but that's the only way that the dollar will can drop. It's versus real money because the dollar is the major reserve currency.
Yeah.
So that's what I think will happen. And yeah, the Turkey, yes, their inflation rate official is 20%. Their base rate is 15, so that's minus 5% yield. But
Yeah.
in the US, we've got 6.2% CPI,
Hmm.
and the base rate is zero point zero. So the real rate
It's
in the US is more negative than in Turkey.
yeah.
So
And speaking of which, so this is a visual representation of the Turkish lira priced in silver. So so the Turkish lira. So right now, you need 306 liras or whatever, or no, it says here. Let me see here. So 7,097. Let me see, what is this? So this is the Turkish lira. So we have, as of right now today, 306.5 Turkish lira for 1 ounce.
hmm.
And so this is the long term from 2003 onward. So if you were aware and had foresight as to what was really going on and what was coming, and you would have bought a couple ounces or a lot of ounces well before now, you would have been on the receiving end of probably was unrealized purchasing power at the time.
Oh yeah, and you can do the
Big
same
time.
thing. You can do the same thing for gold there. And
Yep.
yes, someone could argue, oh, you could have bought dollars, but dollars, you have to keep it in the bank, and you never know what they'll do with that. They might close your dollar account.
Right.
But gold and silver, it's like, I
And
mean, it will hedge.
big time. And
Yeah,
watch it,
yeah,
mind you, the digital representations that we think are on the screen are just claims towards real world goods at that
yeah,
moment. And that has nothing to do with what it will cost you in the future. So here's the same chart with gold for those that were awake and aware and realizing the attack on the Turkish lira or whatever.
yeah. And you look at the
24,000.
Yeah, you
Mhm.
look at, let's say there's a top here around 16,000. I don't know if you can see there. And then
Yeah,
it corrected down to almost 12.
yeah,
I'm sure a lot of people are saying, "Oh, it's time to get rid of gold now because it's
yeah.
topped."
It's no good. Yeah, I'll
That
go
that
back to
that
the paper.
and that's what I'm trying to tell people that um, it's
Uh-huh.
not about the price, it's about the purchasing power, and also it's about it being an insurance
Mhm.
exactly against what's happening in Turkey.
Right. So physical possession provides you with actual purchasing power for future preservation of wealth and current health. So here's the gold chart for the dollar, not adjusted for inflation, of course, but here is the chart that shows over time, nominally
Mm.
speaking, in paper terms, not adjusted for inflation. We're at 1800s today, but just look at the trajectory. This is not going back down. This will nowhere near look like it did here,
Yeah,
where gold
I
goes to
mean,
$400
yeah,
or
the only time there where it was, if you look at the top in 1980, we went
Mhm.
to 887,
Yeah.
and a cup. I think the beginning of 79, it was below 400,
Mhm.
so it moved really quickly. And then interest rates topped in the US at 20%
Mhm.
because they had to let rates go up to stop because the dollar was going to collapse, because that's what the gold price doing that is.
Yeah.
What's happening in Turkey was happening in the US in 1980. But uh, the Volcker could do that because the debt to GDP ratio is only 35%.
Yeah.
Now with debt to GDP at 130%, uh, I don't see Powell allowing the Fed funds rate to trade freely and go to 20%.
Oh,
So
yeah.
that's why I'm holding on personally as much as I can, because it's tough. Unless you are a multi-billionaire or a
Mhm.
multi-millionaire, uh, and you can keep and not worry about keeping the gold and silver, it's
Mhm.
hard because
Life.
we get life,
You got
and
life.
your income is sometimes fluctuates, and
Hmm.
you have an emergency, and you need to spend liquidate to
Yeah.
or
Uh,
yeah, so it's tough.
Here's another article I came across. Cuba's black market inflation estimated at 6,900%.
Not
And so they've been
surprising.
going through a lot of issues on an island that we hear nothing about now, but people there are definitely feeling a pinch. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, these are real world events of what's going on, and majority
Yeah.
of people are asleep at the wheel, man. Unfortunately, so the graphs show for themselves that over time, metals they are real.
Yeah.
They're real.
I
They're
I think, Cuba needs to maybe outsource its, statistics to the BLS. That could help.
yeah,
They
because
could manage perception in Cuba. "Oh,
yeah,
look,
for real.
Cuban CPI is only 2%."
In an extreme condition, it'll just say 69%. You know what I'm saying? They
Yeah.
drop two zeros. Oh
Someone says,
man.
"There's James Peter Millward. Billy on the sofa is better than Billy on air."
Yeah, Billy was snoring at first when we first started live streaming.
James is from the UK. He's a good guy.
Yeah, that's good, man. But hey, let's get ready to dial back, man. As always, we covered the primary issues, the Omnicron, scapegoat. But yet, what's really going on is a cover up for the currency collapse / credit market defaults and debt
Yeah.
defaults, and you name it, man. It's all happening at one
Oh,
time.
just a couple of things from Australia,
Yeah, go
because
ahead. What we got?
that's uh, well, the health minister of Australia,
Mhm.
uh, like the federal, because in Australia there are all the different states, but the health minister resigned, and his
Mm.
excuse is that his family wants him to spend more time with them.
Oh,
But
really?
so yeah,
Are they
that
on
was a
lockdown too?
yeah, yeah, and I saw. Did you see the story? I think it was last week or the week before. They put a lot of Aborigines in camps in the Northern Territories,
Yep.
and I saw the other day that two of them
Two or three
escaped.
escaped. Yeah.
Yeah, and they caught them and put them in jail. I mean, it's so outrageous.
They escaped the quarantine camps and then were put in jail. They just jumped over the fence and ran. They shut down roads, did car checks, and like that. If that
My
doesn't
goodness,
sound some Orwellian type,
I know.
Germany Nazi type stuff, I don't know what would be. But here's a super chat here from Miles. Miles, it says that mini debate with Steve Van Meter on Twitter was awesome. Daniela is trying to arrange a debate. Get him, Mario. So you got a debate coming up?
I don't know. I mean, I was Steve Van Meter tweeted out something, and I replied, and we started because he still thinks we have deflation. So,
Mhm.
um, and he thinks that the reason with T bond, bond prices going up and yields going down, he thinks he doesn't like legislate for the fact that the Federal Reserve is basically there guaranteeing that bond yields are going to stay low because they
Mhm.
can do QE.
Yeah.
He doesn't.
Yeah,
So to me,
So I watch him, and he's very bullish on the dollar and the future of bonds to the point where it's like I don't understand it, but I try to listen and try to learn something.
yeah,
I'm a student of the game, so I'm trying to
but
learn. But he seems to be very convincing when he shows the graphs and the charts, just based upon
but
an uneducated perception of
the
things.
the
But
problem I have with that argument about the dollar being a strong currency is that it's an IOU nothing, and that was a former Fed official who said that, and it might be strong at, at certain junctures against other crappy fiat currencies, but ultimately. The paper dollar is only around because it used to be a receipt for gold and silver.
mhm,
You have to go back.
yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, it's we'll see, but definitely I look forward to that. So I wouldn't mind low key reaching out to him and have you guys on and have you guys go at it if you want to. So
I haven't been contacted by Daniela Camboni, but
we'll bet that'll be fun, man. That'll be good for you too, man.
he calls himself the Bond King as well,
Yeah.
doesn't he? Yeah.
So I guess him, Jeff Snyder, and was it Lacey Hunt? I watched those interviews or whatnot. And so those
Yeah.
three guys, kind of lie in the same framework of thought about the future of the dollar and how, it's not going nowhere. It can go on for quite some time. So we'll see. But this is all a monetary experiment unfolding, and it's good to say they don't know what the hell they're doing. They just trying not to lose consumer confidence in their debt unit, which is the Federal Reserve note. So man, but anyway, so before we dial off, any thoughts to leave us with, Mario, for the weekend? So the reason we're doing things early is because of conflict schedule on his end as well as on mine. So,
Yeah.
but we
Well, I
try to get
guess
it in.
tomorrow we'll get non-farm payrolls. But
Mm.
I think my thought for the weekend and going forward is that aside from talking about money, gold, and investments,
Mhm.
which are important, I think right now um, the most important thing is to try to not comply with the craziness going
Mhm.
around the world.
Mhm.
I think it's really dangerous, and I think unfortunately a lot of people are falling for it.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we're gonna have a Red Sea moment, like Bo Pony says, when
Right.
Pharaoh or the globalists are defeated,
Right. Swallowed up. Yeah.
swallowed up. I mean that's my only hope, but I can't see uh, the Red Sea parting at the moment. But I guess back then the people who were there they couldn't see it
Mm.
happening as well. So
And that's key there because that requires faith. And that's where,
yeah.
faith
Yeah.
overrides fear.
Yeah, and you can't, sometimes I do get frustrated and
Mhm.
angry talking to my wife about this. She's on the same wavelength,
Mhm.
but yeah, try not to let it get to you,
Yeah.
and try to live as normally as possible and not
Yeah.
comply.
Yeah. Yeah, freedom before finances. Because what good is it to have all this worldly possessions, but yet you're not free to enjoy it and actually do things on your own terms? So resist, push back as much as you can in anything you can, and
And
just literally
yeah,
have faith and trust that God will take up the slack because like we're literally at a war on many fronts,
yeah,
spiritually,
and
emotionally,
may
physically, financially, you name it.
and sometimes people say, when are you going to sell your gold at what price and for what?
Mhm.
Maybe I hadn't thought about this, but maybe the gold is going to help us get our freedom. And we might have to get rid of it to do that.
Right.
But
Right.
what's more, I think freedom is worth more than anything.
Right. I'd
So
agree.
there you go.
100%. And I'd imagine a lot of other people, if they realized what was at stake, they would also agree. Now it's a matter of how to get the other family, friends, and loved ones from stop drinking the Kool-Aid before it's too late. Because if they get
Yeah.
that third or that fourth, thing in their body, it might be a game changer for real. So for those that were able to get through just two with no severe or whatever, they probably got the saline injection. But that's a blessing on their side. Hopefully they don't continue to buy into the need to, protect themselves by continuing to participate. So but everybody's different. So wish them the best. Pray for everybody and stay prayed up. Get your weight up. Stay prayed up. Get your weight up, and enjoy the moment while you have it, man. So as always, it's great to hang out with everybody. Thank you for watching and tuning in. Manico64 on YouTube, Rethinking a Dollar wherever you find me. And be blessed, be safe. Enjoy your weekend. Peace.